checking around the Zoom community, David, and I don't see anybody that's reported that problem, so maybe it's special just for you.
I love special just for me. I had it for a while.
And I've heard of the problem where original sound stays on all the time, you can't switch it off. But I haven't heard of this problem where you can't, where the setting switches itself off.
What version are you running?
Ray, you didn't happen to see anyone with Smurf face during the week, did you?
With a what?
I did. I'm talking the other way. I saw Tony and Mitch. They were
And
both
Mitch.
Smurf face. Yeah.
And Alex came on as well. He quickly ran away. There was an issue, just to give you some background, there was an issue with ZoomISO, that a new version of ZoomISO was released that was meant to solve the problem with blacks. It was just compressing all of the blacks into one mass and losing the detail.
Well, Robert, we want to be careful because one of the people who was purple just joined us.
But he's got no audio yet.
He heard we were talking about Purple Tony.
Tony Mobley, good to see you.
Disappeared. Welcome, Tony. Now we just get Purple Mitch.
Yeah, going back to Ray Howard, Zoom released an updated client where they had fixed that problem, which was a problem that was somewhere else. It wasn't their real problem, and as a result, that specific update turned everyone on the Mac update blue. They were just filtered like as if they had a blue filter on them, and there's nothing you could do about it. So they quickly reverted to the previous version of that, and everyone was teasing each other that it was Smurf Day, and there were Gargamel and other characters online.
Yeah, nice.
Actually, it must have been pretty scary for someone to update and go into a meeting and suddenly see himself like that, and they can't do anything about it. And right. where do you find the previous version?
And that's the first time I was not an early adopter for some reason, because I always sign up at 5 in the morning to make sure I got the latest. Not anymore. James, you came to do your exercises?
Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Christmas show of the Zoom Test Kitchen, hosted by Rabbi David Paskin.
Life is perfect.
Oh my gosh. Hi, everybody. Good to see you. So wait, before we even start, I would just like to show you something very strange that's happening with Zoom with me. So you can see right here that we are live streaming. Now there's a delay, obviously, but we are live. But now if I go over to my the Zoom window that pops up when you try and start the live stream, it says unable to live stream to the custom service. The custom service in this case is YouTube. That's the only place we're streaming. So I don't quite get it. Apparently someone is confused because it looks like we are streaming.
I can't see us streaming.
You can't see that I'm streaming?
No.
I can.
Well, how can I see it? Like, I'm literally looking at it right now. We are live on our channel.
You're probably on preview. You're seeing your preview screen.
I'm actually watching it live.
I've got it on YouTube.
Me
I
too.
see it live. Yeah, I see it on YouTube.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what's going on there.
What
I
I
know-
can, what
go
I
ahead.
can, what I can report that I did see yesterday, possibly the day before, from Zoom themselves, is that they were actually having issues streaming to Facebook Live.
Yeah, I saw that also.
Okay.
Everyone was. It wasn't just Zoom. Everyone was having trouble. Facebook had a glitch of some sort. Yeah. Any case, hi everyone. Good to see you. Let's see who's here. Boy, we got a full house. Steve, how are you?
Unable to find mute in a timely manner. But great, thanks.
It's good to see you.
It's been a bit since I've had an opportunity to pick in, but it's kind of hopefully slow on the last day before I go away for holidays. So
There you
let's
go.
do this for a while.
And I hope everyone is going to be taking some time and enjoying some nice holiday time. That would be lovely. Let's see. We got Ray here in the house with Ivy behind him. And it's alive, as Robert said. It's alive. How you doing, Ray?
Doing well, thank you. Everything's well.
Oh, you
We're,
just blinked for me.
I blinked.
Yeah. That was interesting. Yeah, no, not like that. Your
Oh.
camera just went.
Everything's good, and we're wishing everybody a happy holiday and a very prosperous New Year.
Absolutely.
healthy.
I'm into that. Mr. Harwood.
Hey.
Good
how's it going?
clicks.
Yeah.
I
I'm here to report that I did get my 10-day pay per attendee done. Briefly last week on Friday, they said they did it and I could not find it. And I found it accidentally on Saturday in my other account. They had attached it to the wrong account. And on Friday, it only took them all day to fix it. So it was fixed.
All right, but you got it. And
the client's
you
very
got it
happy,
in time. Good.
Yeah, he's got all of his registration going and it's going well.
Fantastic. Good. I'm glad to hear that. Glad to hear it. James, how are you, my friend?
I'm good.
What time is it by you? Because it's definitely an hour later in Zoom. Or an hour earlier. Or whatever.
Well, I'll tell you a little bit more in my testing if you want to hear it.
I do want to hear it, but let me just make the rounds first.
Yep.
Is that okay?
Yep. No, that's what I was trying to not go into it because I figured let's say hi to everyone.
All right, we'll say hi. Let's say hi to the professor. Frank, how are you?
Good, thanks. Season's greetings to everyone.
And to you, my friend. Now your school is off, yeah? Are you having a little vacation at all, or?
They're open today. I'm not there, but
Good for you.
I took turns into about 3 weeks off.
Ah, lovely,
For me.
lovely. Enjoy. Mr. Tony Mobley, having his conversations. Good to see you, sir.
Glad to be here. And I want to again thank Robert so much for being on a conversation with me on a Wednesday night. I think we had a great time.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And the famous Robert that he's talking about there, Robert, I was thinking about you yesterday. And I want to tell you why I was thinking about you. I listen every day to the briefings from Israel about what's going on in Hebrew. And they have the interpreters. They have the worst interpreters, Robert. They need to talk to you. It is painful to listen to. It's just, I just so desperately want you to take over, please.
That would be an easy job, because we actually do a lot of work for a lot of Jewish foundations that work with the Holocaust, and so we have a lot of interpreters. That's an easy one to fix.
It's such a shame. Every time I hear it, it reminds me what an art form and what a profound skill set someone has to have to do it well. It's just very profound and powerful. Really good to have you here. Mr. Idelson, how are you, sir?
Doing great. Glad to be here, and holiday greetings to all. I may have to leave a little early, but I'm going to stay here as long as I can.
Yeah, but you got your blue background worked out, because you were incredibly blue the other day in office hours.
I was sad, terribly sad. But now I'm happy. No, I'm back in the downstairs studio and slowly getting to work properly.
Amazing.
And John, are you using your new headset?
No. This is my Shocks. I'm actually using this microphone, and I forget I have these on. I go out to the shopping, I say, who are you talking to? But they're great.
Speaking of new things, I am using the new Elgato prompter, by the way. And if you don't know about this, it's a teleprompter. What do you mean, no? I can't afford the Ivy, Ray. I can't afford it yet. I'm sorry. If you don't know that this is the new hot thing from Elgato they put out. I had a teleprompter before. It was a 10-inch screen. This is a smaller screen, and I was really worried about it. I have to say, it's excellent. It's an excellent experience. Setting it up was a breeze. It's crisp. It's bright. It's beautiful.
Bigger monitors are a mistake, because your eyes end up having to do this. One of the reasons this was developed by an ophthalmologist, and he knows eye angles and what have you, and your positioning in front of a teleprompter, whatever it is, should be in your perfect field of view. When you're using it, you should pretty well forget about everything else that's out there. Right. A bigger monitor, you don't have that option. Same thing with teleprompting. If you're going to teleprompt on the widescreen, then your eyes are going to be seen doing this. So shrink your teleprompter to the smallest you can get away with, and that way your eyes can stay right on the copy all time.
Right. The issue for me was I use this almost exclusively for Zoom, and I couldn't read anyone's name because the screen was so small. What this screen does, ironically, which again, I was not expecting to be pleasantly surprised by this, is the resolution is not very high. So that is to say, I can't make this 4K. I can't make everything really tiny. It's, I don't know what it is. It's a 1080 or 960, something like that, which means that by default, everything's a little bigger, and that's okay. And I can see everyone's names. It's been a really pleasant experience. John, did you want to, you were?
No, I was just going to ditto what Ray said. And actually with the Ivies, when we're using it, we set the resolution to lower, but I do like the Elgato because it is about the right size. I like our Ivy a little bit better because it's a couple inches larger, but then I set it so I can actually read the names under it. But it does make a big difference because, as I said, this eye doctor that we worked with was designing them for people to see other people, not so much to read script on it. And I think one of the things that transfers to what Elgato did, it's a much smaller screen, and it keeps your eye movement to be a little more normal of what you would be if you were speaking to someone.
So how do you get your hands on one of those Elgato prompters because I know they are not available yet publicly.
No, the Elgatos are. I don't know. I got mine on the store. They may have run out of them.
Yeah, they're out of stock.
We hope to have that problem as soon as our first big run happens.
Was it something you said, David?
No, I'm sorry. I said before we start, I'm the only one in the office, so every time the doorbell rings, I have to just go check it. I'm so terribly sorry. Yeah. Again, I'm very happy with it, and it's very, very nice. In any case,
And what camera did you connect up to it?
the same camera I used before. It's a Sony A6400. There are a gazillion. It seems like there are a billion different ways to connect it with a shroud, without a shroud. I just set it with a shroud, and it's just
no. They did a really nice job of how to hook up cameras. On mine, I have the Huddle Cam HD on it, and as you push it up to it, it blocks out all the lights. So they did a very clever job in the mechanics of it.
Yep, agreed. Okay, I have a Zoom question. Is it okay if I ask my Zoom question? Just because I started the meeting doesn't mean that I should always get to ask the first question. But here's my Zoom question. This is so annoying. Okay, we're in a Zoom meeting. Wait, let me actually take a step back. I have 3 monitors in front of me. I've got one it's my main monitor. It's monitor 1, I guess you'd call it, and I don't have anything Zoom on there. I've got monitor 2, which is the teleprompter, and then which is my main Zoom window, and then monitor 3, which is the second Zoom monitor, the second Zoom window. Okay. Let me stop there. When I am put into a breakout room, my secondary monitor, my secondary Zoom monitor, moves from the monitor I have it on to my main monitor, and it goes full screen. And every time I have to double click or minimize it and drag it back over. And then when I'm sent out of the Zoom meeting, out of the breakout room, the same thing happens.
And you're on Mac.
Yeah, I'm on Mac. Thank you for clarifying. My Zoom windows don't stay where I put them when it comes to breakout rooms. Help!
So,
any thoughts?
Do you have
the unfortunate issue is really that a breakout room is, going from the main room to a breakout room is a lot like going from panelist to non-panelist in a webinar. I mean, sort of the whole client kind of goes, let me get rid of all this stuff and let's start all over again. And but that to me that should set your new window wherever it normally goes when you first start Zoom, not to wherever it is going to now.
So it does do that. So when I normally start Zoom, my secondary window, I see you, Frank. My secondary window is on my main monitor, and I have a what do you call it? A Stream Deck button that automatically pushes it to my third monitor and makes it full screen. Yeah. So that's exactly the behavior. Frank, sorry, did you want to jump in?
Well, I have a question. Do you have any special devices that are allowing you to have 3 monitors instead of 2 monitors? I don't have this. I have 2 monitors on my Mac, and I don't have any issues with anything changing in breakout rooms.
I hear you. No, I'm on a studio, so I've got 3, just 3 regular.
There's a box you can buy. I can't remember who makes it, but allows people with laptops to have more than 2 monitors.
Yeah, that's DisplayLink.
Yeah.
Which incidentally is what Elgato's prompter uses. So Elgato's prompter plugs in via USB, and it just by default uses DisplayLink technology. That is not what's affecting. This was happening long before
Was that happening before? Because DisplayLink does do funny things. So all 3 of the monitors plugged into yours are native HDMI.
Correct. Or HDMI to USB-C. Sorry, Thunderbolt. Yeah.
And David, which one have you defined as your first monitor in the Mac OS?
Right. So this So the three monitors we're talking about is 1, 2, 3. This is my main monitor in Mac OS. This is the second monitor. That's where my main Zoom window lives. And this is my third monitor where and this is the one that jumps down here. It jumps over to my main Zoom window. Excuse me, my main monitor. I think what Ray said is what's going on, because it's thinking of it as sort of a whole new, let's do a full reset. It's putting it back where it starts, which is exactly what's happening. And the reason it's going full screen is because I have it full screen on this other monitor.
No, the reason it's going full screen is in your settings. You've got enter full screen when starting or joining a meeting set.
No, I don't. In fact, that for sure I don't, because I can't stand that setting. So here's what he's talking about for anyone who's watching is in settings here. The second option, you've got use dual monitors, and the second option is enter full screen when starting or joining a meeting. I have that turned off. There's also, by the way, another place where this could get in the way, and that's with screen share, window size when screen sharing. This is one of the new things that came out in the update, is you can have it full screen mode, maximize window, or maintain. I always wanted to maintain current size. Now, if you forget about this and it automatically goes full screen and you quickly shut it, make it smaller again, Zoom will say, hey, do you want to change that setting? You don't have to keep doing this. But it's this jumping in and out of breakout rooms and kind of resetting the Zoom. It's just, look, I'll survive very nicely, but it's just frustrating. And yes, Frank threw the prompt to change screen sharing full screen behavior if another participant begins sharing their screen and the user quickly exits full screen mode of the Zoom window, they will be prompted to change the default setting. Choosing yes will change the window size when screen sharing setting.
Yeah, it's not really breakout rooms though, right?
No, right. That's what
looking for a clue in there.
Yep. It would be nice if, I mean, again, I acknowledge that I'm a ridiculous edge case with 3 monitors, but
have you reported it?
No.
You might have found a new bug.
I'm not sure it's a bug, but I don't know. Maybe
it doesn't sound like desired behavior.
Right. That's true. In any case, that was my Zoom trial for the. Hey, Hasmuk. Hasmuk joined us. Nice to see you, my friend. Good to see you. James, you wanna bring us up to date, and then we can kind of do the rounds and see what other people have.
I was gonna, when you mentioned this, think of that new update. And there's 2 new things in the update. That I'm interested in, if testing that theory of like how that new thing works. I haven't actually seen how, because I'm always on maintain the same size. So I was first confused what that new setting meant. And then the other thing is, does anyone have an ATEM connected to their computer, and have you run the 1517 update to see that the crush blacks are now fixed? That would be interesting to see. But on my,
I have an ATEM, but I didn't run an update yet.
The 517 came out, I think, on Tuesday.
Yeah, but there's a bug, right, for Mac users. It turns you blue. There's supposed to be a patch for 517 to fix that coming. I don't know if it's out yet.
I'm not going to update then. I don't want to be blue.
If you use an ATEM, Mac users get smurfed basically. It's not working correctly at the moment. They're going to patch it.
Absolutely, you turn blue.
I saw you, Tony.
Because I saw Tony was blue the other day, and I was wondering why he was blue, and I guess that answers it. Let me go.
Now I sort of want to update just to be blue.
David, I don't recommend it, because it's really hard to get back and go backwards. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Now, is this Mac based only, Frank? Okay.
Yeah, just Mac users. The Windows one works properly for ATEM users.
Interesting, because I was, again, when we do a lot of our pushes from the Windows world, some of you might know from administrative point of view, when we actually do a push to all of our employees here at the office, when it comes to pushing the actual latest version of Zoom, we use Winget, which is it's an open source piece of software that Microsoft actually runs, and Zoom will keep the database up to date, the Winget database up to date if they release new packages. And they have conveniently not put 5.17 in there because I checked before I started today and nothing there. But yet, if I check via the client, it says that there's a version there.
It is the holidays. A lot of companies are missing people right now.
Yeah, understood. But again, for the, when it comes to administrative type pushes, they've been religious in the regards of, as soon as it does come out publicly within the client, it'll also come out in the Winget repository as well. So just curiosity. I don't know if that's got any relation to them pulling back because of it on Mac, but again, Winget is only strictly for Windows-based operating systems.
In any case, James.
Yeah, so I had a user who, before the time change, had set meetings into January 18th. So, and then when you did that, he checked his Zoom web client, and the time that was on both was correct. And a little bit later, the time had changed by 1 hour. And so it was this intermittent issue that he was having. And so I was doing kind of more intensive testing, making lots of meetings to see when I could get this to fail. And so one way I could assuredly get it to fail is when I was in the Zoom Chrome extension, created the meeting, the time would be correct for me, but if I, on the Google Calendar, move that meeting to a different time and then go back to my Zoom web portal, I would see it was an hour off. We do have our Google Zoom interaction kind of connected by our Google admins because we've configured the Zoom for Google Workspace plugin. But in the Zoom web portal, you can, disconnect the integration. All the integration still seems to work, but I found that would make a difference. If that's not configured there, compared to when it is configured. I don't know that I explained that well, but basically, using the Zoom Chrome extension and using the Zoom for Google Workspace plugin, that procedure works a little differently. And it does make a difference if you're connected with the integration in the Zoom web client. The big problem I have right now is when you try to connect the Zoom web client, you have to check all the permissions for it to work. You can't just do calendar permissions. You have to do drive and everything. And this person works for Student Records, and there's no way he's going to allow even just the connecting the drive and also compose and delete and read emails permissions. So there's something going on there that's not working.
It sounds like for some reason it's requesting more permissions than it needs in order to do something that's not related to those permissions.
Right. Right. So.
Okay.
That
That's the update.
That keeps his going a little bit weird.
Yeah.
Can you not use the desktop client?
I mean, the process that he's going to the Google Calendar to check everyone else's schedule when they're scheduling these meetings. I'm not sure I'm following. I mean, that's not.
It just sounds like maybe the web client is the issue, and I wondered if you could use the desktop client and maybe circumvent that somehow.
Well, I mean, if he schedules the meetings in the Zoom web,
is it a calendar integration?
It's a calendar integration issue.
Okay, then yeah, that's different. Okay.
I just started cloud record. Sorry, I just started cloud recording because it just dawned on me that we haven't. Did you all get the pop-up saying that we're cloud recording?
Just now, yes.
Okay, good. Because it just dawned on me that we haven't played around with Meeting Coach yet because we haven't had any recording. So I'm going to record. What are you laughing at me, Frank? So I'm recording this so that we can play with Meeting Coach and it can teach us how to have a better Zoom test kitchen.
You're going to give us scores on how often we pause and how interactive we are?
How good your questions are. Yeah, exactly.
How many we do?
How many Absolutely. So we all did update, I'm sure, to 5.17 this past week. What have we found? No. Robert, really?
No, because I'm on a Mac. I don't want to go Blueface.
No. 5.17 for Zoom. I thought, wait, is that a Zoom problem or an ATEM problem? Now I'm confused.
It's a Zoom problem.
I'm on 5.17 on Zoom on a Mac.
Because they changed it. They swapped it last night. They reverted it back.
Oh, okay. I didn't even notice. I don't think I had that problem. Because I was on 5.17 all week.
They pulled 5.17 down pretty fast when they figured out there was an issue. Maybe you didn't update before they took it down or something. I don't know.
I try to be really fast, but maybe I missed it. Okay.
So to be clear, you guys are saying that it's safe to do it now?
I'm on 5.17 right now.
And I just updated to 5.17 too on Windows, and I'm fine.
Yeah, but it's not a Windows thing; it's a Mac thing.
No,
I wouldn't do it, Tony, until you hear the all clear from Andy.
I am on 5.17.0.27246, and I have an ATEM Mini with my camera coming through it, and I'm not blue. I'm just saying.
I wish I had done a screenshot.
It would have been fun to look at. You could have auditioned for Blue Man Group. That would have been fantastic. So in any case, most of us, everyone except Robert, apparently, has updated to 5.17. Blue or not. What have you all found in here that's interesting, exciting, intriguing, frustrating? What's in here?
End of support for macOS 10.12. So that affects me because I'm on OS 10.12.
Really?
Yep. On this computer.
10.12. We're on.
I don't.
How do I know what I'm? Sonoma's 14, isn't it?
Yeah, 15.
And you're on 10.12? I don't get it.
That's right. It's nice and stable. I have other machines for being on the leading edge, but I like to keep a few machines an operating system or two behind.
Wow. So how long will it be until you? I mean, will you update your system because Zoom requires you to?
Yeah, probably while I'm on vacation, I'll probably bring this one up 1 or 2 operating systems, but I won't go to Sonoma yet.
Wow. I've heard so many people say that, and I'm just an idiot, I guess, and I just update right away all the time.
You're not an idiot. It's just, it depends what you use your computer for. Like if you video edit, lots of video editors are very careful about not being
Yeah.
on the most recent versions. And people who do, photo editing or other things where they do it professionally, usually are very conservative about what operating system they're on.
Right. All right, I just got a screenshot of Blue Man Group. There's the blue right there. Wow. That is very blue. Okay.
Tony's was much better.
Was it?
Oh, yeah.
Andy made a comment, David, about that you're using Ecamm, and that's why you may not have changed.
Why I may not have gone blue, because I've got the ATEM running into Ecamm. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. There you go. Thank you, Andy.
Can you turn off Ecamm so we can see it blue?
Let's try it. Hold on. But again, you said that they updated, so here we go.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that! I am blue. How funny. Good call, James. Wow, that is fantastic.
It's only fantastic because you can roll back, David. If you couldn't roll back, it's very scary.
Right, but I don't need to roll back, thank goodness, because if I just do this, it fixes me. That's sort of
No, it
interesting.
doesn't. You're still blue, David.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Don't do that.
April
Don't scare me
Fools.
like that. That is interesting. That why would Ecamm be fixed? Like Ecamm isn't. How is it fixing it? That's so interesting.
Because the ATEM processes the video if you take it directly out as your video source. I think the ATEM uses MPEG-2 on the chip on board, and you're bypassing it when you go through Ecamm, right?
Huh.
Yeah, I think the Zoom people, it's, when you plug in the ATEM in directly, they're going, oh, that's an ATEM. We're going to do things differently to address the black and white crush at the top end. They didn't get it quite right. And how they didn't notice it turning everything blue, that's kind of surprising, but there you have it.
That's interesting. And sorry.
I think it's amazing that they're doing something to fix it, though, because it is great that they're gonna, give us a way to have better blacks and better whites, right?
Yeah, the little demo shot that they had where you could see the word test in it, pre and post, they're fixed. And the fact that they're fixing a firmware problem with a particular piece of hardware, the ATEM, but there's so many people so heavily invested in the ATEM, it's really nice to have that taken care of, because now I'm running my ATEMs through Roland. I'm taking the video out and it works fine, and you don't get the crushed black. So hopefully they'll get it back and you won't turn blue. But David, you look like from a scene from Frozen, and it is the holidays, so I mean that might be.
So I should go back. Right,
you should go back. I mean
that, or I live on Pandora, one of the two. Can I ask a quick question? Is the problem? Is it the crushed blacks? Is that a Zoom? By the way, wait, before we do anything else, can someone please explain what crushed blacks means? What does that mean? If for people who maybe look.
Does Ecamm give you scopes?
No.
Oh, so if you have scopes and you look on a scope, digital black is 0. In analog, it used to be 7.5 IRE. When you go below that, your blacks are being crunched down, and you're not getting true blacks, which affects grays and everything else. And then when your whites are blown out, you're over 100 on a scope, which, if you're a video engineer, you'd be having a freak out about. Anyways, so the chip in the ATEM doesn't handle video processing correctly from a broadcast point of view.
And so Zoom is now trying to fix that?
Yeah.
Fix an ATEM problem in
That's
Zoom.
right. Yes.
Wow. So
As
yeah,
you
John.
look at it, the nuances that you see in a black shirt or something, that's where you see it the most.
Right.
Well, I've
So
had
in
this
your
described to
case-
me, it's sort of like putting in a LUTs for an ATEM.
Interesting. Yep.
In your
But it
case,
also,
David, the effect that you would see is that your microphone in front of you would sort of blend into your shirt. It would all be black. It would be difficult to see any detail in it.
Right.
First
It's
place that
interesting. Which that's why I got this. The only reason this muff is on here, the Zcat is on here, is because I wanted it to be black so it could blend in. And if I wore a black shirt, it could blend. No, literally, that's the only reason it's here. Because I ended up with this. I should have bought the black mic. I almost went out and bought a black mic just because I wanted the black. But yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Actually, sorry, I just interrupted someone.
No, it's hard not to. First place that I saw it is trying to use an ATEM is a video capture device from Mac OS, which has a lot of whites and grays in the, like if you go to system settings. So if you just take a Mac, put it in as an HDMI input and see it in anything through an ATEM, it does not look the same as what you bring in. You're losing all the grays and like bounding boxes and, subtle color differences. So it's not just like everything that is a little bit slightly black just collapses into black, once you get up to a point. Now you've got gradients. It's also on the white end. Everything that is slightly gray just becomes top end white, and all becomes the same thing.
All right, Frank is showing us scopes. Do you want to walk us through this, Frank?
Okay. Basically, this scope here is called a waveform, and the one below it's called a vector scope. But vector scopes deal with color and hue. The waveform measures brightness and darkness in your picture. So at the very bottom you see 0. You may not, the font's kind of small. At the very top you see 100. That's the legal range of video. But down here at the bottom, that's the blacks. When the blacks are crushed, more of this sort of luminosity would appear at the bottom. So the chip is processing the video and it's pushing it down. And perhaps at the top, it's blowing the whites out, which means they're over 100. My picture's probably not perfectly calibrated though from my camera, so. But this is just a.
What are you looking for? What's if the scopes were, if you had a perfect picture, what would the scopes look like?
I think in my vector scope I'd have more of the colors. Mind you, I'm wearing black, right, which doesn't help, and some of the other colors in the background aren't that prominent, but my colors are definitely not saturated enough. But up here in the waveform, which is mostly what the thing Zoom's trying to fix, is I'm not going through my ATEM at the moment. I'm just going straight from my camera into my Mac. But if I was using my ATEM, the whites, the high levels might be pushing past 100, and the blacks might be sort of a more emphasis on more of the distribution of this signal would be at the bottom, which is not what you want. You want something very sort of even distribution, but it really depends on what's in the picture. Like, there's no perfect picture because your background is different than my background. It's a combination of looking at the vector scope and the waveform, and then there's other scopes too. There's RGB and other scopes. So in an RGB or a histogram, you'd get a better representation of the colors because it shows you the blue, the green, and the red at the same time. It's somewhat complicated, anyways, but
Frank, I think it'd be helpful. Put your hand and run it across so you see how that goes. So you could see that's his hand. And if you put something white in front of your shirt, do you have a sheet of paper? Yeah, so then you could see where the white's going in there.
It's kind of like the Matrix. If you look at scopes for long enough, you can kind of interpret them. If you've never really looked at scopes, then it's a little complicated the first time you look at one.
If you put that white paper back in, you could see where you're the opposite of crushing your white.
You can see there's a real emphasis around 100 because that's
very, very bright.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I just
that's fascinating.
Illustrate it.
That's fascinating. Thank you so much for that.
And one thing that was really interesting too, and you said yours is off. If you looked at the vector scope, there's like a little line around, we'll say 11, 10, 10 o'clock. That's where you see where that line is. So you normally like point your flesh tones right up that thing. So like your flesh tones are actually off. And that's probably your vector scope.
Your face is colored wrong, Frank.
Well, I think
Please fix your face.
I haven't white balanced my camera today. Plus, in my camera, I also have a huddle cam. I think John said he had one as well.
Yeah.
I have a huddle cam HD as well. Some of the settings in there I don't find relate to broadcasting as well as they could. Like they use terminology like proc amp or something, I can't remember, but it's not a direct relation to what a broadcasting person would do. I'm gonna stop sharing for a second.
Yeah, I put that menu up in my screen there. And I think what you're talking about, I don't know whether it's this one or the one below it. Let's see.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
on more professional equipment, some of these settings would be called something else and work a little differently. So it's harder to get this camera lined up. But it's Zoom. I don't white balance every single time.
So Frank, if do I understand you correctly that in the audio world, all that white bar across the top would be like a clipping effect?
Clipping, yeah.
Mhm.
There's legal maximums and minimums for what you want in a broadcast legal signal, and in the analog days you could go over 100. It was called I think super saturation, super white. Like there's times where you allow clipping. Like if I'm the subject of the picture and there's something behind me that's blown out, but it's not the subject of the picture. Let's say it's a football game or something. There's very little you can do to control that. But in a studio, you would probably change your lighting or take that thing out of the picture and not have anything ever be illegal. But then there's also things video engineers can do downstream of the signal before it goes out for broadcast. Sort of like putting compression on audio to stop things from clipping before they get out, just to make them legal.
Or they can turn you blue, Frank.
They could.
Well, you saw a lot of the clipping happening when people wanted to imitate the Apple commercials, and they'd set up a white screen and lighting, and it might have looked good on their monitor, but when they actually tried to do something video-wise, it was pretty ugly.
I gotta say, David, like video is more than just technology. There's also the psychology of video. When I look at your blue picture, it makes me feel empathy because you're sad or something. There's the psychology of video.
I'm
right?
looking for some pity. I'm gonna keep it. I need Zoom pity. I'm gonna just leave it like this. It's fantastic. I don't have an ivy. Give me an ivy.
What would be nice is if Blackmagic would change the way they do their hardware so that we could get legal blacks and whites without Zoom having to write special code for us.
Yeah. That really says something about Zoom.
But I mean, it's very unlikely they'll fix hardware that's already released. I mean, maybe in firmware they could do something.
Well, but it's a firmware, no?
But it's a chip too, right? It's some of that's hard coded.
Some of it's hard, not firmware that's changeable. It's part of the processor. But the fact that you could even do a LUTs that fixes it is pretty amazing.
Right. And to your point from earlier, John, the fact that Zoom went to the effort, okay, they got it wrong the first time, but the fact that they're going to the effort to fix this for folks is really above and beyond, I think.
Well, I from this, I just sort of assume there are a lot of ATEMs out there.
Yeah.
So it doesn't only affect Zoom. So I'm sure other the video conferencing people are having the same impact. But the fact that they were able to fix it close enough, hopefully, David, the next one won't turn you blue.
Maybe pink for Barbie or polka dots or something.
Don't tempt them, David.
Don't tempt them. They're going to release a version just for me to make me look ridiculous.
The David LUT.
The David LUT. Perfection. All right. Anything else in the release notes that is worth looking at that you all. I said anything else, but anything. I don't think we even got to it yet.
One thing I saw that hopefully will help all Zoom users is the feedback and help options are more prominent, or at least they've changed the help menu. Hopefully that'll be able to,
Is there a way to see that? Like where if it's more prominent,
client profile menu. So it's probably not when you're in the meeting, but in the actual desktop. Just checking now.
Yeah, so this is
help.
So here is help. Was that not there before?
I think it's reconfigured a little differently now.
About Zoom, what does that do? Oh, that just opens the what version you're in. Now look at that. I can't click anything now that that's up there. That's kind of annoying. Let's go back and we'll do. Oh, I clicked on the wrong thing. Sorry. Help center, and report a problem. That's going to open the website. Takes me right here to the help center. And then the last option that we've got here is report a problem right here. I never, ever click on my profile picture up here on the right. Maybe other people do. That's just not, I don't know. I've just never had the need to click up there.
I have the notes open. That's why I'm just throwing these out there. One that's interesting is request host to start cloud recording.
Yeah, and that was one I was wondering about. You're already recording, but to me that would be very annoying if I was the host and I had people requesting it. I would want a button in my settings to say that they can't, and I didn't see those settings. So.
All right, I just stopped recording, so if someone would like to request it, I will show you what it sounds like. All right, so I just got this request, and so this popped up. Oh, I've gotten now, hold on. So I've gotten a couple of requests now. This is the first one. You received a
local
request.
Recording. Oh, wait.
No, you received a request to record to the cloud, and then Robert is requesting to record this meeting locally. So this is the cloud one. And this is the, so this one existed before because, right. But this is now big. And again, so number one, is it annoying, the pop-up? Number two, and this came up last week, will people understand that this is not going to record to their cloud, it's going to record to the owner's cloud? It did pop up. Someone else.
The other thing annoying about it is it doesn't say who requested it. At least on the local recording, it says Robert Sabavati did, but on the other one, it just says you received a request. We don't know who from.
I'm curious. Can someone else request now? I wonder if I get another pop-up, or
I just sent one for a local record.
For local record, I haven't gotten anything. Okay, now the first one just up. Wait, I just got another one. But again, we don't know who's sending these. So I'm going to, okay, so as soon as I allowed Robert, then I saw Josh's. And now I've got John's. So it's one at a time. So I will say, and now I've got Tony's. Wow. Yeah, this is annoying. That they each pop up as their own and you can't deal with all of them at once. Now, but this one you can, it looks like I can. Because I've got that deny all option.
Well, isn't there a setting then, if you're going to get a couple and you're just going to give everyone permission, isn't there a setting to just allow everyone to record locally without asking?
Well, no, again, this is the cloud one.
See, right. The cloud one's going to your account. So.
For security, yes. So for security, there is, under my security settings, there is a start recording. No, sorry, that's not it. It's start recording local file. Yeah. Allow all participants to start recording local files. So if I click that now, I just click that. Now all of you can record locally and you don't have to request anymore. And someone just started recording. I got a big pop-up saying the meeting is being recorded. And I'm sure all of us did, actually. Actually, did all of us get one? Or is it just me? Oh, it's just me. That's interesting.
Yeah, and as co-host too, I'm not seeing any of these pop-ups. David,
Wait,
FYI.
if someone is recording locally, isn't everyone supposed to get notified?
Depends on your settings as well.
But it might be because you recorded earlier when we were here, and we all
And everyone said okay already.
yeah.
I could leave and come back.
I don't know. It's interesting. All right, so let me just received a request to record at the cloud. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to deny this and see what happens. So I went ahead and I denied that. Presumably, if someone else asks me to start recording, I'll get the same pop-up. Yeah, the local records were annoying. That because it was I couldn't deal with them all at once. I had to just go one after the other. I wonder if
Yeah, but let's put this into context, Dave, because when you're setting up a meeting or a webinar, you have the option to allow local recording. Now, if you don't select that option, what you're saying in this option is, do you want to allow people to request to be able to record locally? So this is a consequence of your first decision, because if you had allowed everyone to record locally, you wouldn't get any requests. And so it really depends on what you're trying to do.
right. I'm just not sure that. I mean, I live in Zoom and I forget to do the correct settings all the time for meetings. There's so many settings. I think we talked last time about someone was saying that Zoom feels bloated, and I'm not suggesting it is, but there are so many settings. There's so much that you can do with it that I often forget to set things up, and so.
But there's a way around that,
yeah.
David. You set up templates, and then when you set up a meeting, you use a template, and you get everything that is preset. And so,
Andy said that he posted a screenshot of where to do the control to block these requests. So let me find that for you. Sorry, I should have had that open, Andy. Go ahead and oh, okay. All right, he wrote me something about something else. Let me find what he said about. No.
Everyone's looking left to their second screen.
There is absolutely a setting. There is absolutely a setting to prevent the permission request, including for cloud. So, okay, all right. So here's. I did not see this. Thank you, as always, Andy. Let me share this with you. Request local recording permissions. All right. So, oops. This is what the settings look like. The security settings in my meeting right now. So I've got start recording local files. So this is all under the allow participants to. So this is what I clicked before to allow people to local record. Right underneath that, and apologies for not seeing it, do I want to allow participants to request local recording permission? Do I want to allow them to request that the host start cloud recording? And I can toggle either of these on or off during the meeting. Thank you, Andy. And just another piece of this on my because I checked this start recording local files in my security settings. I now do not have the option to check request local recording because it's moot, because I've already said everyone can record on their own. So that's fantastic.
You know, that's cool to see it was there. I just was thinking there'd be a setting in your settings that would allow you to preset that so you didn't get that request. That's cool.
And of course, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And I see what Annie put. Like, yes, I understand. Like sometimes, you have the person who's actually the host who forgets to record the meeting, and you don't want to stop them to say, "Hey, you forgot to record the meeting again." You just click that, shows on their screen. They go, oh, and then they turn it on. So that's cool.
I have watched endless playbacks that start mid sentence because people, myself included, forget to click the record button. And at one point I had it set up to just auto record every meeting, but then I found that was frustrating also. So it's there.
Well,
there.
and yeah.
Please,
Sorry,
go ahead.
last week when we were talking about AI, we were talking about if AI were really good, it would know that it was time for your meeting to start and it would go, hey, normally you have recording started by now. Shouldn't you be doing that? That would be really good AI, but yeah.
You can do a simple reminder note to yourself. This is the checklist.
Oh, sure. Right. I mean, I'm sure many of us have stickies in different strategic places around our setups to remind us to.
You make electronic stickies, David. You should try them. It's
No.
like under notes.
Yeah, but you know what's funny is that for me, because my entire life is digital, what really catches my attention is an old school Post-it. That's yeah, exactly. Camera, that's right.
Our campus, because so many people fail to turn on their cameras for their classes, the default for any of the Zoom meetings I do on my campus account automatically record. And I don't think about it. And so then, do you really need to record this call? You know, but we've talked about going back, and they did switch it back for a while. And so many faculty, we ingrained bad behavior since faculty members, it automatically did it. Now, when they stopped that, then they had a whole bunch of classes that didn't get recorded. So now I have to consciously, every time I start a meeting, turn it off if I'm not using it for a class.
I'm curious, guys, if there is some way to actually template a different meeting. So if you wanted to have like an employee meeting, so you'd have certain settings turned on, is there such functionality?
That's what I do. I have templates set up, and some have recording and some don't. So then I choose whichever template I want.
Yeah, so if you go into your Zoom account, and you click on meetings, you can see meeting templates. They give you these to start large meeting seminar. How do you create a new one?
You have to actually create a meeting or begin creating a meeting and then save as template.
Oh, okay. So let's.
Or you can go to your meetings that already exist.
Right. So let's schedule a meeting, and we're gonna say, well, whatever. We'll just leave all this stuff as it is. We'll go down to the settings because that's what's important. Do we want the meeting ID? Yep. Personal meeting. Let's click on options. We've got allow participants to join anytime, Q&A, mute participants upon entry, breakout room pre-assigned, request permission to unmute, automatically record the meeting, automatically start meeting summary, bump, and let's make this
in the cloud. Yeah.
And then automatically start AI, and yada, yada, yada. So now if I save this, now how do I make this a template?
Back into the edit, I believe. And somewhere there should be, oh, there might be an ellipsis on the end of the meeting or something. I've only done it once. Nope.
Okay. Start, edit, delete.
Click on just the meeting title and see if we get a different.
Nope. Interesting. I wonder if I have something.
If you click on the meeting title, at the very bottom in the right-hand corner, it says Save as Template.
It does?
Unless you have templates turned off?
Yeah, that's possible. You may not have them on.
My meeting. Click on the title.
Scroll all the way to the bottom and look in the right-hand corner.
Yeah, I don't have it.
it'll say start, copy invitation, edit, delete, and then way over on the right it says save as template.
I don't have that. I wonder if is it possible it's turned off?
Has to use a generated meeting ID.
Oh, could that be it?
Yeah, that's one of the prereqs.
Oh, okay. Let's try that. Hold on.
There's also two kinds of templates, right? There's personal templates and organizational templates.
Edit your meeting and make it generated.
Yep. Okay.
Now save.
And there it is. Yep. Save as template.
Right behind your head.
Yeah, sorry. Right there, save as template.
There you go.
Save as template. So now if I go back, there we go. Yep. Let me see. When I click on this, what does it bring up for us? Okay. Edit this meeting template, schedule a meeting with this template, and it shows you what your options are. Yeah. Great. Yeah, so that's how you do the templates.
And when you go to schedule a meeting, it asks you if you want to use a template, a specific template. You can just select template.
Let's go back. Schedule a meeting. So it did not ask me. So I click on schedule a meeting. Now the way that I can schedule a meeting from a template is if I go into templates, I can say use this template, and then it generates a meeting for me. Ah, wait a second. Wait. If I click on schedule a meeting, oh, look at that. That's interesting. So this is when I just go to schedule a meeting. These are the options I have: topic, when, duration, time zone, attendees, registration, meeting ID, security, yada, yada, yada. When instead I choose to start a meeting, or use this template, when I click that, then look at my options. Topic, when, duration, time zone, registration, and then I have a template option. And I can click here and I can choose from, these are just the personal templates. Interesting.
I don't know if anybody from Zoom watches this show, but I really wish they would allow sharing templates. Not through the organizational method, but through personal. Like I should be able to send you my template if we're all in the same department or something. I'd like to be able to send you the template. I know you could do it in groups or other ways, but I just wish there was a way to export your template.
Yeah.
This topic has actually come up a couple of times, Frank, and I've never seen any notes on it. But David, this must be an option because I've gone into my schedule a meeting and I have select a template.
Yeah,
So
mine too.
it must be a
Really?
back end option to use a template. I don't remember where it is, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a longer winded way is where you can allow someone to have scheduling permissions for you. They can get to the meeting that has your template, and then you can share that template.
Yeah, there's a few ways to do it, but I just wish there was a simple export button and then you could send it as an attachment to somebody. I don't want to configure, like I've set up global templates for my employer, so everyone can use one of 3 templates. They can use their personal templates, which may be different than the global templates, and they may want to share that with somebody so that someone say, how do you do that? Here's the template. Don't worry about it. Or here, we're all doing it the same way.
Yeah, and that's great. You know, like especially let's say webinar temp, because webinars have so many more things that you might want a template, and you have people who run the same kind of webinar meetings. That it would be great for them to share those in an easy way. In case anyone from Zoom was listening to this, but I suppose we could always send them feedback.
And I'm pretty sure it's just a like it would just be a CSV file that you export and import. Like it's basically just metadata, right?
Yeah, or even a JSON file or something like that. Yeah.
You can back up a configuration of your whole Zoom setup, and you can export it and look at it as a CSV. I don't think you can import it though. Before when I was trying, I have a sub account. I don't know if you guys have sub accounts, but I have the word master is not a great word, but that's what they call it, the master account, the sub accounts. I wanted to configure my sub account to be identical to my master account without having to open both of them side by side and compare. I said, can I just export the configuration and import it to the sub account? They don't have that, right? But they did show me you can export the configuration and review it as text. So it's really just metadata.
For what it's worth, I have logged into my main account and a secondary account, and I've searched through settings to find that start with template. I wonder if that isn't a Windows versus Mac thing, because I do not see it.
It's not.
I'm on a Mac.
It's not a Windows Mac thing. You just aren't looking in the right place.
Oh,
not to
okay.
be rude.
You know
just
what?
Not looking.
Yeah, okay.
No, I've configured it for like 30,000 people. It's definitely
It's
there
just
somewhere.
me.
It's not somewhere I go very often though. Once you configure it, like you might review it once a year. I have to go look for it myself, right?
Right.
Frank, I saw that during this last discussion you were adjusting your color. It does look better.
I just I don't know. Talking more. The blood's flowing.
All right. Well, if anyone finds, because I am absolutely not seeing that, which is interesting. Oh wait, I have one more thought though. No, that wasn't it.
There it is.
Where what is? Who?
Yeah, it's there
Whatever
now.
you just clicked, click again
Oh,
between meeting and whiteboard.
yeah, that's where it is. So it is there for me, but only when okay, that's what it is. My default, I have every meeting set to use my personal meeting ID because that's just the way I use Zoom. But in order to be able to use a template, you have to generate automatically your meeting ID, and then you can choose a template. That's what it is. And here you've got the two that they give you, large meeting and seminar, which, by the way, you can turn off if you want to. And then your personal ones, which I don't have any here. And there is a limit of 40 templates, it looks like. So you can set up to 40 of them.
And Frank, I've just found a new option in the back office in the web portal, where it says allow admins to define meeting templates and make them available to users.
That's what I was talking about earlier, the global templates versus the personal templates.
Mm-hmm.
So as the lead administrator or the owner of your Zoom license, you can make templates available that you define for everyone in the organization, and then you can make your own for your own use. And what I'd like to be able to do is export the personal ones and share them with people.
Now I understand. Okay.
What else?
But in your case, Robert, they might be very useful. Like if you're hiring employees and you want to make sure they're setting up the meeting or the webinar exactly the way you specify, you can say use template number 3 for this kind of scenario. And that way all the settings will be the way you've determined ahead of time. So a global template can be useful?
Yep. Yep.
Is there a way to lock settings in a template? That is to say, in the example you just gave, could I create a template and then have someone use that template and not allow them to change the settings from within the meeting itself?
Not at a template level, no.
No.
You could do it at the account level, but not at the template level.
It's a starting point. So you can still modify the template. Like, let's say you like my template, but there's one thing that bugs you about it, you could change it, but I don't think you can lock it.
Oh, so okay, wait a second. So the template itself, I can't even lock. Forget the settings in the meeting. That is to say, if I were to share a template with someone, I have no guarantee that they're going to actually use the template as I sent it to them. I'm
Correct.
thinking about, for example, I'm thinking about, on a Google spreadsheet or something. I will sometimes protect certain cells if I'm sharing that with someone so that they can't screw with those cells and they can just put data in other cells.
Yeah, they can change the settings in the meeting that they're creating, but they can't change the settings in your template
Gotcha.
so that
But
it
I wonder,
affects
does
other
it?
people.
But if it's a template, isn't it? And you send it to someone, isn't it just creating a copy? They're not actually using what you created, right?
Well, to Frank's point, really, is you can either create your own templates or the admin can create one for everyone in the organization. So if they create one for everyone in the organization, the individuals can't change that template. Only the admin can change the template.
Understood. Understood.
But in the freelance world, they don't give us admin access. And so that's interesting because somebody could share, said, listen, run the meeting this way, but I could adjust something. First of all, they'd never know it. And second of all, it now becomes my template. Because it's not I'm not on their account per se.
I have a couple of clients that make me an external admin and ask me to change things for them. That can work.
So what else, folks?
Oh, while we're in the back end,
Can we just say hello to Josh?
Hey, Josh.
It's
Hello,
so good to
Josh.
see you.
Hi, Josh.
I didn't mean
Hey,
everyone.
Josh.
It's so nice to see you,
that's all.
Josh.
That's all I came for. I'll see you guys. Oh, thanks. Thank you. So when you're creating links for a meeting, there's a couple things that you keep in mind. So, for example, for security, I know that you typically have to pick one security method or the other, either pass code or a waiting room, right? So if you don't want to mess with passcodes, then the alternative is you schedule a meeting with the waiting room. And likewise, if you
or both.
Or authenticated user. There's 3 types of security.
Or an authenticated user. Fair enough. So if you don't want a bloated passcode URL, then you use the waiting room, and then you get a human size ID number to pass on to people. But recently, I've had a thing. I have a recurring meeting. I try to say that correctly. A recurring meeting wherein I can turn. It doesn't require a passcode. It has a waiting room, but I can turn the waiting room off upon entry, which is helpful. So I have it. It still exists. But the last time that I attempted to create said meeting that was simple, didn't have all the extra URL, obfuscated password attached to it if you wanted to give people a link.
Hey, Josh, wait, before you go on, can you clarify something? You said you can turn off the waiting room. So the only security measure that you set up the meeting with is a waiting room, and then once you start the meeting, you can turn that off. And so now there's no security measures?
Used to be able to do it. Perhaps my meetings that I created that way have been grandfathered in, because I still have one that happens every week that I can go in and turn the waiting room off, which means I can give a simple passcode that people can enter without having to, to administer the waiting room. You kind of have both the ease of access and the ease of distribution, right? Because if you turn off basically, Zoom makes you use one of the security methods. You turn something off, like the waiting room. It's on you. Someone comes in malicious. You've left the door open. Essentially, fair enough. I'm happy enough to do that. I've not seemed to be able to, like, you'll see the waiting room's on and it's grayed out in the security settings. You can't turn it off in that instance. Now, of course, if I use schedule it with a passcode, then sure, you can turn the passcode off. But then if you want someone to enter, you can't just say, go to this meeting ID, type this in, and it's something on their text message that they can text it in. You've got to, either send them a link properly or tell them, you have to speak modem or barcode to them for them to enter that scenario. It could just be.
You can use
that,
you can use your URL shortener.
Sure, could do that. Yeah.
I was just going to say, Josh, that's actually, I don't use a URL shortener. I redirect. So to get into my Zoom meetings, I never send people a Zoom link. And for some people, that actually turns out to be a problem because they want to use for whatever reason, it doesn't matter. I create a davidpasson.com/Zoom, whatever, and that takes them right into the meeting.
Yeah, that's a nice workaround as well. I'm wondering, has that ability, like, do I have grandfathered meetings now and that ability has passed, or is that still possible and I've just missed the setting whereby I can create a meeting without a passcode and have the ability to turn the waiting room off after I've done so? Love to, if it's possible. The other thing that's kind of related to that is the links that are created whenever you generate the meeting based off of like a Google Calendar add-on, as opposed to generating it inside of Zoom's client and then adding it to a calendar client afterwards. Appears to be a differentiation between the two. Any insight on that would be appreciated.
Real quick, you're saying the URL for the same meeting generated from the Zoom client may be different than the URL generated from the Zoom add-on, if you will, in Google Calendar for the same meeting?
There was a scenario whereby I created a calendar invite from Google Calendar and shared the meeting with a number of people, and someone else went to share that link, and for whatever reason they got it from their calendar. When they posted it, it then said, yeah, that's nice, but what's your password to it? Whereas whenever when I posted
that happens
it,
a lot. I get that on the Zoom community a lot, and what I normally find is they haven't pasted the entire URL. There's some kind of corruption, either the N08, which is always at the tail end, or they've accidentally struck a character in the middle and deleted it, or something has happened. That anytime there's been a reason found, that's been the reason. And most people go, oh, it's too much for me to worry about. I'm not going to worry about it. But that's usually the problem.
I believe the relatively repeatable response was a copy from I don't know if it was Google Calendar, or if it was iCal or another client, copy from it and then paste into a forum. Seemed to be pretty repeatably missing. I wonder if there's something that it's not quite transmitting, because the individual sharing it could get into the meeting without problem, but the link that he shared,
a lot depends, Josh, on what you're pasting it into. There are some things that will look at a question mark and go, oh, that's a new line, and we'll create a link based on everything up to the question mark and not include the passcode. I have seen that in a couple of places too, but not as often.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good. It's a good
Sometimes
thing
when
to
I double click to highlight, it will only grab the up until the question mark. I've seen that also. Yeah.
copy error. Gotcha. Okay.
If you get the full link and you copy it and you paste it, it should work.
Right. Diligence. Gotcha. So
I just do Control A and or Command A in Mac, and it'll capture the whole line. Typically.
And Josh, back to your grandfathered meetings that might have the ability to turn off the waiting room if there's no passcode. That code was changed over 2 years ago, requiring one or the other. So these would have to be really, really old meetings, I think, if you were going to be able to grandfather that. So and the other issue with that is that if you turn waiting rooms on, you can't enable join before host. And I get a lot of inquiries on the Zoom community. Look, I'm not going to be able to be there. I still want people to be able to have the meeting, and join before host cannot be enabled if waiting room is turned on. And then the other thing that join before host allows you then is to give someone your host code. And that's another whole story. But at any rate, I normally will always put a passcode in, even if it's very short. The URL gets very long, but make it 4 to 6 digits. It doesn't have to be the gobbledygook that they put there. Create something that's easy to pass through and remember. And and then if you want to turn the waiting room on, so that you can turn the waiting room off if you just want people to come on in, and then engage the waiting room later for a security measure if you're having issues.
can you repeat that bit, Ray, about making your own password? Are you talking about
Your own passcode. So when you click the passcode, there's an editable field there, and maybe your admin has to enable it to be editable. But I get that 8 to 10 characters of gobbledygook. I always erase that and put in some cases, it's the name of the event. It's a 4-character ID plus something, and people, if you tell them, oh, it's XYZ 14, they'll go, oh, okay, yeah, that's our meeting.
Right. So it can't be in the URL. The URL will always be long.
Correct. You cannot put it in the URL. It has to be in the meeting, and it will change the generated URL code if you change the passcode. So if you put in a passcode and then send people the URL, and then you change the passcode, that previously issued URL is not going to work because it's encoded with a different passcode.
The only thing I'll tell you is that those restrictions are kind of optional in a sense, because we are allowed to not have any of the security issues. Our meetings we don't need to have a passcode, and we don't need to have waiting room on our account.
Are your attendees just people from inside your organization?
Not necessarily, nope.
Okay.
We do something similar. We have, by default, all meetings have to have authenticated users, and we give them the option to turn it off if they don't want to use that. And we strongly recommend they use one of the other security options if they're not going to have an authenticated
That's
user.
got to be enabled on the back end, and you've got to make a case to Zoom to have that turned on.
Right.
I also put a method in the chat about one-click join.
Can I ask a quick question of Frank? And what's the value of that? Why is it important to have zero security? Why might it be important to have zero security in your meeting?
The way you're phrasing that's confusing me. I always recommend to have security. So I would say it's a bad idea not to have security.
No, I'm sorry, but you were just saying that you don't enforce it. You don't.
Sometimes there's people from outside organizations, guest lecturers, things like that, who don't have credentials at our institution, so they're not an authenticated user. So there are some times where there's we recommend you use one of the other security options, but some people don't want to be bothered, and we say that's on you then. But since we made everyone require authentication our Zoom bombings have gone to almost nothing in the last 3 years. The only time we have Zoom bombings is when someone has a public webinar and publishes the link somewhere like Twitter and doesn't have any security on their meetings, which we allow them to do, but we tell them it's a really, really bad idea.
And when you say authenticated user, is that authenticated from within your org?
Yeah.
Or okay.
We use single sign-on.
Gotcha.
It can be both. That you can set it up to say, well, not for Frank's, but I'm saying like to have the authenticated, it can be they just have to log into their Zoom client is the authenticated, and then
yeah, that's right. You can also do pre-registration. Like if people pre-register, that's a form of security too. Like require people to register for the session.
David Brady from YouTube is pointing out that C-level executives cannot be bothered with all of this security stuff. That's for us to...
And we're the ones who get fired when the meeting gets Zoom bombed and it makes the 6 o'clock news.
Right.
But just coming back to your question, Josh, what are you actually trying to achieve? To have an open link, which is for everyone with a waiting room without registration?
Yeah, so I guess this kind of goes back to the, like, you know, why would you ever want to remove security? Well, you know, for a meeting that you're more concerned about convenience than security, telling someone to, here's the, you know, easy propagation is the one that doesn't have the URL link, you know, long obfuscated password link that follows it. And so that you don't have to be the butler of the meeting to be able to turn the webinar off. The equal and opposite, opposition, security and convenience are, firmly opposed to each other.
You can put the passcode in the link though, if you're careful about who you share the link with. I put an article in the chat about that.
Yeah, and having the link embedded into the code is fine for propagation methods whereby you can click a link. But if you word of mouth or copy from something visual onto the computer, type this in, that's where having that passcode is either
sometimes
to remember the passcode or it's to remember the
QR codes too. You can use QR codes, but also webinars are much more security. You really always have to have a meeting. Sometimes it's better to have a webinar.
Yeah, right. I mean, but basically this would be something that I'm not really worried about security. I'm just not wanting the people to. I had meeting with clients to do pre-tech checks. Usually I'll leave those wide open, and I'll be waiting for them to arrive, and I would like them just to come in instead of me. If I missed the little beep beep that they're waiting for me, that's kind of an annoyance. And if I, typically I can give them a link, so the password technically should be fine, but every once in a while they'll want to come in on a second device, and then they'll be like, well, let me copy it over it. It's just, I don't need that to be a top secure link. I just want to be easy and convenient for that's what I want them to come into the meeting so I can check their tech, and then tell them about all the security of things. And so, I just wanted something wide open that.
You know what, Josh? What I hear what you're saying. I actually almost never use. Wait, let me change that. I always share a link with other people, the branded link that I do. But for me joining a meeting, I hate joining meetings with links, because I always join from my client, and the client does not have, interestingly enough, ZoomISO has a way to, has a button to join with link, but regular Zoom, vanilla Zoom doesn't. And so I always want the meeting number and the meeting ID and the password. And so what I've done, I've actually done it for this meeting also, is I made the meeting ID, and again, you would have to use your personal ID for this, my cell phone number. And I've made the password, I don't use a password, I use a waiting room, and you make that something so that it's a low bar. And you don't have to even think about, if someone says, what's the meeting code I want to join for another device, you just know it. It's your whatever, your social security number. I mean, don't use that as your Zoom ID, but.
Yeah, I've done something similar where I've had The ones I like to use are 4 digits, 00, and another 4 digits that are the same thing. It's really easy to, like, here, type this in, punch this into your thing, or if I'm doing a bunch of if I want to spin up a bunch of test bots and I want to join a meeting several times, that's another thing where, like, if I just know the code and I can punch it in, I can join a bunch of bots to a meeting in a short period of time.
Fair enough. In the auto-generated join URL, the passcode hashed encrypted, so it isn't in the clear. Ah, right. So this is a comment from David Brady. So what David is commenting on is in the URL that you get from Zoom, the passcode that's embedded in that URL is not actually the passcode. It's a hashed version or a encrypted version of that. So you can still grab it and it'll still work. But if your passcode is 1234, it's not going to say zoom.us/user/ and then your number and then 1234. It's going to hash that or encrypt it.
But the other thing you can do is you don't have to use a number. You can use alpha characters, and you can put a name in there, which is easy to remember.
Like, well, this meeting is Z Kitchen, and by the way, it's I think it's what do you call it?
Case sensitive.
Case sensitive.
Yes.
Yeah. So this one is, for example, lowercase z, capital K, kitchen. But that's what Jeff set up. I never set that up, and it's case sensitive. Yeah.
Come into the kitchen.
Z kitchen. Oh, is that what it is? Come into the kitchen.
So now I know your cell phone number. I'll be calling you all the time.
Oh, it's funny. So actually, you're all welcome to call me. But this is my main meeting is my actual cell phone number. I have a Google number, which is my actual. This is the cell phone number that I never use. But again, I used it because I wanted to I want to join this meeting from my Zoom machine over here, and I needed to remember the number. So, yeah.
Tony raised his hand. Tony?
Hey guys, I wanted to ask a question about my in-ear monitors. So I've been using the Bumblebee sidekicks, and I love them. Unfortunately, now I have only one ear working. So what I've done is start using these Lensols, which are probably a third of the cost of the sidekicks. But the Lensols to me are not as low profile as the sidekicks. So I wanted to get some advice on just go ahead, bite the bullet, use the Lensols, be happy, or use the low profile sidekicks in one ear because that's all I have. Or I saw what I consider a high-end audio person using an Apple AirPod in one ear. So I have Apple AirPods, and that would be lower profile than the Lensols. But I just wanted to know what you guys thought.
I can tell you that I use one of these, the Auto Engineering Listen Only Earphone Kit. It's only $60. I mean, it's cheap. You're not going to want to listen to high fidelity music through this, but I've got it in my ear here. I don't think anyone can see that I'm wearing anything. I love it. It's one ear. I love it.
Can you share the link for that, please?
Sure, absolutely. I'll throw it in the chat. Any other suggestions from folks?
Without getting into the details of your ear damage, Tony, my wife also uses when she's interpreting sometimes bone what do they call bone headsets?
Conducting.
Yeah.
Bone conducting. Thank you. And that allows her to listen and to have her ears open to other things. So I don't know what you're looking for, but that is an option, definitely. Oh, Steve is showing his.
Robert, can you repeat that? I'm sorry, my wife was texting me something.
Okay, Steve, do you want to just show yours off? Maybe that'll be easier.
Oh, sure. Robert was talking about these are the Shocks bone conduction headset. So there's nothing in my ear. It's just right onto my temple. And that's why I've been hearing you guys for the whole, oops, I was kind of off mic there, but hearing the whole show that way. So I hear the rest of my room because there's no transparency mode or anything. It's just everything right here, straight to the bone. It's pretty nifty. And like you said, you won't enjoy music through it, but for a human voice, it's perfectly adequate.
Thank you.
And Tony, there's I use the Linsoles. Well, Linsoles is the Amazon designation for them. I have a few different types. Some of them are more I my ears don't do well hiding them. I think it's a like anatomical thing. Some people are really good at tucking them away, or even the same ones. Mine don't hide very well, but the ones that I have, they're clear, and they're not the KZZ S10 Pros. Those ones are more visible in my mind. Do you know which model that you're using for the
I have the
Linsoles?
Z10s.
You have the Z10s. So I'll have to look and see which model I have. But these particular ones, you notice they're not. I know the Z10s come in like a black, and they come in silver,
That's
and
silver.
they might come in. What are you mostly trying to avoid showing? Like, is it the profile that's sticking out,
Well,
or is it just that they are contrasty?
every day I was using the Lensos every day for, office hours, after hours. But when I was doing Conversation with Tony Mobley, or if I was doing House of Worship, I used the sidekicks. And part of the reason for using them with the House of Worship is that I was trying to encourage them to not have the great big headphones on during service, and so I didn't want to. So by using the Lensols, it's clear that I have them in my ear, and I was trying to push some of the. I have a few that are using the aftershocks, but there are some that are resistant to moving from the big headphones. And so I was trying not to say something about it. I just want to kind of encourage by modeling what we what we're hoping for.
Like what Mike does here on our meeting.
You mean with his antennae?
They're not antennas.
So, Tony, how long have you had your earphones?
The Lensos?
No, the Bumblebee sidekicks.
I'm going to say it's about 2 years. I did actually messaged the company, and I got an immediate response. Them asking me how I was using them, which I told them how I was using them. And I also shared with them that I used them for House of Worship and Conversation with Tony Mobley. And I didn't get anything back after that.
Yeah, they have a 2-year warranty, and I know a friend of mine did get one replaced through warranty. So I don't know whether it's worth doing that or not. Did you buy them direct, or where did you buy them?
They were actually a gift.
So Tony, for us people that don't actually own the model, those don't have replaceable cables, correct? Into the ear parts?
No, they are. Let me say this: they are awesome, but the cord, as you can see, is extremely thin. And when I have them in, it's very difficult to see that I have them in. It's very difficult to see that I have them in. And when I have them in my ear and I'm taking them through my shirt like that, out underneath the shirt into my Zoom H6. And now this shirt, you might be able to notice the cord going through, but most of the time I have on a color that you don't really see them.
Most of us run the cord down the back, and since you're only showing this much of yourself, you can actually bring it around. So trying to stuff it and make it disappear here, it's easier to have it just go around the back, and it comes down. It's pretty much the same distance to your recorder.
I would need some type of an extension to connect these two. Even the lensos, I would need something that would go from the actual earpiece.
Well, you can do that.
Yeah, I use an extension.
Impedance. That's a low impedance. You can get an inexpensive male to female extension for $5.
We don't shame for extensions here.
That's right. I use an extension because I like to get up and move, and so it lets me walk around a little bit.
The ones that I use when I'm not on this are Ear Hero. Absolutely the tiniest in-ear you'll see. It's basically a security headset, earhero.com, and they're amazing. I just because of this has been part of my TV experience for 40 years. So, but I use those all the time. I really like them when I'm not.
Why don't you use them here? Why? Is there a reason?
No, there isn't a good reason. No, I should go back to them because I have to play. I have a very high tinnitus noise, and so a quiet room when I'm trying to fall asleep doesn't work for me. So I have to pump the white noise or something into my ears to fall asleep. And with the Ear Heroes, I can actually fall asleep on them, and I'm very comfortable with them. They're as tiny as they're smaller than your fingertip. They're built on the hearing aid base. Earhero.com.
Okay. If you guys don't mind, could you? I'm sorry, Ray. If you guys don't mind, could you please share an extension that I might want to use with the lensos?
I could send you an extension link, but Monoprice has some very nice ones that are actually on sale this month. But I use the N-ear. If you're thinking of replacing your bumblebees, they've come out with a newer, less expensive version. So they have a dual earpiece, and it's $150, which is less than the bumblebee. So the company is N-ear, EAR.
Can you share that link, please, sir?
I can put it into the chat.
By the way, Tony, about the extension, one of the things that I found, not often, but like during this meeting when I've needed to run out a couple of times, because I have the extension, what I do is I don't even take the ear out of my ear. I don't unclip it from my back. If I have to get up and run out, I simply just unplug it from the extension, tuck it in my back pocket, run out, do whatever I need to do, because it just doesn't bother me at all. When I come back in, I can sit down and plug it back in. So I'm a big fan of the extension that you were talking about.
Yeah, and I don't know if David Brady is still on, but he turned me on to an Angry Audio extension cord that is magnetic, and it just pops apart. So that's the one I used when
That's
I
what
did.
this
Yeah,
one is, John.
there. Josh has it. Yeah, that's a
What are
little
you
more
showing as
expensive
well?
than the extension I put in.
Wait a second. Angry. Hold on. What? Angry Audio.
I believe that's the name. Ray, you bought them. Do you remember where we got them? I got them through Dale Audio, but let me.
Here we go.
Angry
Headphone
Audio.
disconnector. Yeah.
This is
Headphone.
great because if you forget and you walk away, it's just magnetic, so it just pops up, and you put it anywhere near it, and it connects automatically. It's magic.
Is this it looks like it's 1/4 inch, but is
No, I've got an adapter on it.
okay.
I think you can get different ones. The really nice thing about them is like if you get a bunch of different type connectors, you can actually walk to another thing and plug in.
Wow.
You could get, yeah, I have both the 1/8 inch and 1/4 inch for the ones I have, and they're interchangeable.
On your
I couldn't
hi-fi.
get along without it.
But as I recall, they weren't terribly cheap, as I remember, because I was going to get
Yeah, I
more.
don't think they were. Gents, I have to run. Have a great weekend. Merry Christmas to those of you. Happy holidays, and we'll see you next year.
Merry Christmas to you. Oh, here's the pricing. I have to guess that this is going to be way at the bottom, right? This little. Oh no, here it is.
Right there. Yep.
See page 8. All right, here we go. Headphone disconnector set. 1/4 inch to 1/4 inch is $29. 1/4 inch to 1/8 inch. Oh wow, they have all of them. They're all 29. No, these are actually 1/8 inch to 1/8 inch is 29. And then you can just get 1/2 of each one, which are $19 each.
Just in case you break it.
Where do you
That's
buy
good.
these?
Well, if you want to go from one to another, you can use it as an adapter.
Right.
Josh, do you know where you got yours? David was asking.
That's a good question. It's been a minute since I ordered
I got
them.
it from Dale Audio in New York.
Yeah, it might have been the case. Yeah.
They may have other distributors, but that's where I got mine.
I've never even heard of Dale Audio. There you go.
On the dealer page, David, if you want. Reseller page.
Say again?
It's on their reseller page, all the different locations.
Oh, there's a reseller page. I didn't see that. Headphone disconnector.
The only kind of downside to them is they're really nice to just like detach and walk away. The only thing is that the having the heavier side of it means that you can't really let them dangle. I always put it in my pocket when I walk away because it's just a little bit heavier than if it didn't have any connector on itself. The magnets are actually pretty heavy because they're oriented in such a way that the TRS connection is polarized.
So very
I've got
cool.
a set of earphones that I use not that often. Obviously, I like my comfy headset. But one of the things that I use is if you ever have an ID badge when you go to work, this thing kind of clips around and does that, and you can actually run the cord through that and clip this to your belt loop, so that it's at least always in the same spot instead of dangling behind and then having to kind of reach around and pull it in front or something like that. And so I actually use this in a couple places, both for the end that I pull apart and the end that I'm going to kind of leave dangling, and I clip the one that's pulled apart right next to my computer, and that way it's kind of always right there. That helps me a little bit, avoid frustration.
Very, very inventive, Ray. Very inventive. Like
Where
that.
do you get those?
I actually got a bag of them just on Amazon.
CES.
They're not that expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, NAB,
Yeah, pick your favorite trade show. Yeah.
And any place that just sells, stuff for badges.
Ray
But
will
yeah,
be mailing you in. He's got a whole bag full.
We don't have any stinking badges, but we do like the case of the danglies.
Yeah.
And again, too, Ray was saying it. You could also clip it onto the back of your shirt as well, so if you wanted to.
Yeah.
To keep it in the back.
And it's actually kind of makes it kind of easy. Then is that you can actually have it pulled out and kind of get into your ears and looped over your ears, and then you can tug right behind you and get it down snug so that it actually conforms to the back of your head and you don't see any wires.
Tony, I put a couple of links in the chat for you. These are the ones that I use. They're pretty cheap. The Linsole versions, they're clear. I don't know if that's aesthetically works out better for you. I also put the AliExpress half the price if you're willing to wait for, I don't know, a month.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, everybody.
No problem, Tony. No problem. Right. All right. David, I think, is disappeared on us for a little bit. So any other questions from anyone? Any gigs next week would be the good question too. Any last minute Zoom events that we have to do next week before New Year's?
If there are no questions, I've got something to share if I can.
Share away.
Yeah. Share away. Go for it, Robert.
Give him share access.
This is something, especially when you're holding an event outside of the region or the country or the continent you're located in. I've been using a tool recently which allows me to ping the Zoom data centers to figure out what my lag times are. It's really important with interpretation. And I'll share this with you. It's and I'm just going to share it here, not as a share screen because it's on a different computer. And if you look at this tool, I'm connected to because I'm in Poland, my closest data center is in Frankfurt. So I have a 5 millisecond lag time at the moment to get to that data center. And this is really cool because it gives me a maximum of, it says 10 hops there on the screen, but 3 are within my network and there's 7 outside of my network. If I look at the equivalent of going to the States, and I'll just swap this around. If I'm doing an event in the States, for example, and I were to stay on Frankfurt data center, I would have it says here, maximum of 259 millisecond delay. So it's considerably more than doing it locally. And the good thing is, if you go into the back end and you your config, you can actually select the data center region that you want to be working in. So for example, if I'm doing an event in the States, I'll go and set up everything for one of the data centers in the States as a preferred region. And then my Zoom client from here will connect onto there, and the lag or the delay will be minimal. It's very clever, and when we're doing interpretation work, it's really good because you don't get that lag between what is being said by the speakers and the interpretation. Well, you get it, but it's not as big as if I were to go through, in my case, Frankfurt. So you can imagine if you're doing a gig in Australia or in the Far East, then the same would apply. You could select that region for the data centers and then connect through there, because all of the attendees would be locally in that region and attaching to that data center anyway. So that's something I've discovered, and I thought it would be nice to share with you.
So Robert, if you were to connect to Frankfurt, and there was a meeting that was being hosted by one of us, and it was hosted in a United States data center, is the connectivity for you to get directly to the US data center faster than you going to the Frankfurt data center and then going over the Zoom network to get back to the data center? Doesn't Zoom have an inter data center connectivity that hopefully is fast and robust?
I'll be very honest with you. I don't know the routing. I haven't analyzed the routing, but I've only looked at the delay times. So if I select a ping to the California, for example, data center, it is whatever it is, 20 times longer than the Frankfurt one. So what the delay between Frankfurt and California, I'd imagine it would be low, but whether my routing ping is going through that route, I don't know. I can't tell you.
Right, right. It would only be going through that route if you were actually using a Zoom call. Several months ago, I had the occasion to use one of my UK connections to help me with an event that we were doing in the United States. And we brought her on last second, and we were doing a little practice thing, and she had some delay. And it was before I knew about this, and she found it on Google and went, oh, I'm just going to change my connectivity from here to here, and it solved all the things. I just don't remember which things she changed in what direction. And so, yeah, it bears maybe a little testing to figure out.
It almost sounds like to me, Ray, that you're talking about VPNing, where they VPN'd into a public server near the Zoom server data center. Does that sound right?
Well, you can, as Robert said, in your profile, decide which data center you want to connect to when you are starting a meeting or whatever. I guess I'm talking out of my turn here, but and so she basically made that change, and I can't remember if she was pointed to the US and changed it to the UK or the other way around, but then the delay basically resolved itself and it was fine. So yeah, it's like using Zoom's own VPN. If Robert were to connect to Frankfurt and let Zoom route that through, hopefully it would be fast. I mean, but I don't know.
But from what it says here in the instructions is that on the help support is that the Zoom data center choices only apply to the account that is hosting the meeting. So I don't think the attendees that join the meeting can choose in that way. I think that's a Zoom decision more than it is a user decision. That's my understanding, but I'm not an expert. My experience now is only that if I wanted to have the meeting in, for example, Australia, I choose the data center that's hosting the meeting in Australia, and so that all of the people in Australia have quick access, and I have the interpreters in Australia, and we're dealing with it in that way.
I have to read up on that. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting point that I think is worth sharing and just going into a little bit deeper, especially for people who are doing international or multinational events.
Yeah, it is quite interesting because I'm even looking at, again, you can always pop up the Zoom client. So in Windows, I've opened the Zoom client and I'm in the stats area. And right now, even though I'm in Canada, as Frank and I are in Canada, and I would love to know, Frank, if you're getting a different data center than I am right now. But right now I'm being pointed to the US. Now, again, David's based in the US, so he built the actual meeting in the US. Now, there have been times where I have seen, and again, we do have data centers up here in Canada as well, but I'm curious if Frank, if you're still there. I can't see you because I'm in.
Yeah, I'm still here. Where do you find that in the security shield?
When you go into
statistics.
Settings, okay. Statistics. It'll actually tell you data center you are connected to.
Mike, I'm in Poland and I'm connected to the data center in the United States. It doesn't tell me which one. IAD, whatever that means.
Yeah, that's the same one I'm getting too. So that's interesting.
It's the host that defines the data center that's
yeah, I'm in the US.
Huh. There you go. Interesting. So where you would think that it would be a lot more logical for Zoom to actually have you go to the local data center in your country to connect up and then route it through properly. which again in the streaming world is what we do ideally. And I've done many times as a system in for streaming. But it's interesting that it's more of a, okay, my meeting is based in server X, and I'm making that meeting in server X, be it US, be it Poland, be it Canada, be it wherever. And now that server or that block of servers is now everybody has to come here
I think
instead of coming to a local server.
I could be wrong about this, but my understanding is that I could request to be in a Canadian data center, but you don't get the full functionality. There's some things Zoom can't do in Canada. Some of the services only work in the US data centers, so that's why we haven't made that request.
Interesting. Something I did not know. Ray, what did you find? Tell us for the YouTube crew.
I don't have any knowledge. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The IAD was the airport code for Dulles International, so probably means we're all dropping into the DC area.
Interesting, because I know that David is based in Florida, so that's interesting too.
What inspired me to look at this was that in office hours they were talking about multi-streaming and multi-streaming to YouTube, and actually defining which YouTube data centers that they're streaming to get the maximum or the minimum latency going out. And that inspired me to look at this.
Absolutely. And that is very, very smart. Again, coming from the system administrative world of setting up streaming servers, 100%, the less hops you have from your encoder to the actual initial streaming server that's receiving the feed, absolutely the best. So again, if you, this is why even when people use like Azure or AWS, again, because most cases they're already in the same data center as Google would be, or there's already some sort of what we call peering point between AWS and Google, that would already be established, that the hops between going from sending as an encoder, like having vMix in the cloud or having any other type of software in the cloud doing the encoding to a YouTube data center would be that many less hops. And of course, if you're going from your physical location, of course, you've got your ISP, then your ISP hopefully has some good peering points with, in this case for YouTube, Google. And then of course, after that, it goes within Google's network to the actual RTMP.YouTube server.
Robert, can I go back to, so you have an event, you said in Australia. So you choose interpreters that are in Australia because they are closer. But in the case, I don't know if it's the case that like there's a language that you really only find those speakers in Europe. Do you have that situation? And then do you find that there is more lag for that interpreter that's coming from outside that region?
Absolutely. I mean, look at the stats that I just showed you. That's 250 milliseconds one way. So if you've got an interpreter that's listening and then speaking, you've added half a second onto to that by default. Yeah. And then the interpreter needs the additional 3 seconds to be able to communicate and translate. So yes, that is the case. But you're spot on in saying if we don't have a good interpreter locally, we will take one in a different country.
And I guess maybe I'm not always clear on the ping, but the ping is the time it takes for a response back from that server. But once you get that response and you get kind of a connection, and you're in this Zoom meeting and people are talking, can the ping be inconsequential? That what's actually occurring once the lag between that person, or is that lag always based on the ping?
Again, from the server infrastructure is concerned, Ping will just tell you your destination millisecond, right? Now, if the servers are now becoming overloaded, then of course, now video and audio will automatically get hit, because if it's getting to the point where the server is quote unquote filling up, then 100% the amount of data, it can only push as much data it can out the Ethernet out of the server, right? It's as simple as that. So, but the millisecond not necessarily will change, but if the actual Ethernet response time increases, then let me make sure I'm saying this right. So the ping millisecond can
One second,
increase.
I have to get off of the show. 1 second.
Oh,
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Bye, John.
Bye, John.
So basically, when it comes to, so what Robert is checking is to make sure that the hops between the server and his physical location where his internet connection is, he's seeing all the different routers that it hits before it actually gets to the server. And the amount of time, the millisecond between that server and his location is giving him at least a benchmark of how many milliseconds I am, right? Between those two locations. Now, that's fine, but will that actually give you the full resources of, is that server getting overloaded or not? And does the server have enough capacity or not to handle all the calls or all the Zoom meetings in this case that are being served by it? So there is that potential that the server hardware resources or even the physical Ethernet resources could get to the point of being overloaded, which could also add for additional latency because it's waiting for something else to go out first before your meeting information, right? So it is a first come, first serve type of technology. That is the streaming world. But at least it's giving Robert that benchmark of, yeah, I already know that for me to here is going to be over 100 milliseconds, and that's bad. And, from here to here is only going to be, 20 milliseconds or 50 milliseconds. Okay, that's a lot better. So at least he knows automatically that he should be going after that as a shorter one. But again, if there isn't as many servers in Poland versus the other location that might be more milliseconds, that might be also the problem too, that the Poland server could, even though it's only so many milliseconds away, it could get overloaded quicker because majority of Poland is using that as well. Or, where there might be bigger capacity at the next choice that Robert has. So it is a bit of a chicken and egg in that regards, balancing act of experience. And the more you use the servers locally, in Robert's case, Poland, versus that next choice that Robert has, and putting up with, shall we call it, the millisecond change of latency now between each one. Robert, go ahead.
But James, you're quite right. The ping is there and back. Yeah, that was my mistake. But what I have noticed is that looking at this monitor between Frankfurt and the States, the number of hops to Frankfurt is 7. The number of hops to the US is 22. So what I've noticed is during events, it's usually one of those hops that seems to get blocked up or overloaded. It's not the server itself at the end. Those times are pretty stable. But every now and then I'll get something that'll run up to 1,000, 2,000 milliseconds, and then it'll drop, because this shows me in real time. It's pinging constantly. And that's where I see the difference and hear the quality in the interpretation as well. And generally in the video as well, you can see a drop in the quality.
Yeah, and again, that's all about that. So again, in that situation where Robert's seeing that, is it's not the actual Zoom server problem. It is a hop between Robert and that server, which nobody really has control of. The company that has control of it is the hop previous to that bad hop that's having a problem. They're the ones that are having that bandwidth issue at that particular point. So it's not even Zoom. So you couldn't even blame Zoom at that particular point, because Robert was running into a bit of a roadblock because there was a really high intense usage of that router at that particular moment, or those particular seconds, enough to make the video and audio quality diminish.
And this enters into a lot of the things that we get on the Zoom community. I've got a very high connection to the internet from my office. It goes right straight into the internet. And every once in a while I get this little yellow bar that clips up that says that something's bad about my internet. Well, it's somewhere between you and where you're trying to get to. It's Zoom. And we don't know where it is. And unless you've got Robert taking a look at all of your individual hops for you, you don't know where it is either.
And,
That's
and
exactly
even
it.
my measurement isn't very good because I'm not 100% sure that there is data that in my hops that is being routed between the data centers of Zoom. Yeah, so
Correct. I mean, that decision is made really at each individual router when something gets there. Oh, yeah, which direction is technically shortest, but
Right.
they don't all do a good job.
Right. And it is for the networking world, they call it a secret sauce to a point of where they will actually push the routes as well. Get a little bit off topic on Zoom when it comes to this, but basically when it comes to networking, it depends on the agreements that that router's company has with their next hop. And they'll only send it down that hop if it's cheaper than it is to the next hop on the other side. That's why there's a lot of what goes on in data centers called peering points, where basically it becomes a physical cable as compared to being a physical internet connection that actually physically leaves the building and comes back in again, right? So that's why you'll have a lot of these huge data centers with a huge amount of servers that all have what they call peering points between each other. And that is the ideal situation where you might be in an Amazon data center, as a matter of fact. Google might actually be in that data center too on a different floor, but they got a physical cable running between where all their servers are physically down to where Zoom's are, from Amazon's down to Zoom. And now, of course, you're basically not even a hop-ish away. And of course, in the streaming world, of course, way back in the day when streaming was starting, 20-ish years ago, there was, the rule of thumb was 10 hops or less is the best, right? Because now you've got 10 routers between the server and the physical encoder. As soon as you start getting over that 10, you're in the danger zone because anything can flop at any point, at any time beyond 10.
Yeah. I think just my point here was really just to show that if we are holding a meeting where the majority of the attendees are in a specific region, then we should choose that region as the location of our Zoom data center. That was the point I was trying to make.
As the host.
As the host, correct.
Right. So, and I don't know, are you hosting the meetings that you're doing the interpretation for?
Yes, we are. Mm-hmm.
Right. So even though it's your Zoom account, wherever you're going to have the meeting, it just always makes sense that you are picking the data center that's closest to where everyone is going to be going to that meeting, where your interpreters are going to that meeting, not
Yes.
where you're located, but where that meeting is. And that just makes sense. I was not quite following exactly where you were choosing Frankfurt, because you're saying it's not the choice of the individual person what data center they use. It's the choice of a meeting host. They might have the choice of saying which data center they're going to use. So that totally makes sense.
Okay.
Robert,
Can I share
one more time. Where is that actual selection made by the host of which data center?
Oh, Robert, you're on mute.
Sorry, I don't have this client, this back office.
Is it in your profile?
It's in the.
Because there's a place that you pick which data centers your stuff can flow through with a bunch of checkboxes, but I was looking for the one spot where you actually set where am I going to be hosted at.
Yeah,
I can't
Ray,
find
I was actually going to bring that up as well, that I've seen what you just said, which is what additional data centers would you like to add for this meeting? I've seen that, but I haven't seen what Robert's been talking about.
Yeah, you can the locking certain data centers and regions out is the easy one. Just give me a second. I'll go in and look for it because I've
Yeah.
got a different client and I'm logged in as a different client just now.
And I see we've lost David, and we've gone past 3 o'clock, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm willing to hang.
Yeah.
I will
Again,
check in a minute.
I'm officially host, so continue, guys.
Okay. I will check it in a second and then just post in a link into the chat. But I wanted to share one more thing with you, if that's okay.
Yeah. Frank, was
It's
that you showing that, Frank? Sorry.
Yeah, I was showing the wrong thing though.
All right, go ahead, Robert.
I'm sure some of you who are on Windows have heard the announcement that Microsoft will be stopping Windows 10 support after 2024. So for people who are in the corporate world, especially, that's a real challenge because we're going to have issues in that area. And I have been looking at what to do and getting myself ready for that event, for that change. And I've been speaking to a couple of suppliers of computer equipment that have told me very, very frankly, and I know this is going out public, so I'm going to be careful with my words, but the prices of computers at the moment is probably the lowest we're going to see it for the next 2 years, because next year there's going to be such a high demand for new laptops and new computers that will support Windows 11 that the prices will go up. So just sharing that with you, and because I have just bought a stack of Mac Mini M2s, the really, really lowest module, lowest of them all, but they just need to do the basic things that they need to do for the interpreters. So that's a challenge we've had and an expense that we're incurring at the end of this year. Just wanted to share that with you guys because I'm sure
if anybody has any comments about that, go ahead. If not, I can give a bunch of opinion that I've been running into for Windows 10. So I'll let anybody give that first and then we'll offer. What? All right. So what I know about Windows 10 disappearing and Windows 11. So quickly, what I can say is that there are ways of getting around the requirements of upgrading from Windows 10 to Windows 11. I will leave that to everybody looking on YouTube to find such ways to do so. Chances are your hardware for Windows 11, we're not talking about the so-called Windows 12 coming soon as well. And chances are that's also rumored for mid 2024 is Windows 12, not just Windows 11. So that's also in the rumor mill. But there are certain YouTube channels that you should be able to find for, especially for our YouTube audience, that you'll be able to find the specifics when it comes to the different flavors of upgrading your Windows 10 hardware to Windows 10 to Windows 11 using unsupported hardware, quote unquote. That can be done. As far as potential of Windows 12, there's been rumors that around July, that Windows 12 may be coming out. Again, keep in touch with a lot of the influencers that are specific, that will specifically do Windows-based updates and that are constantly in touch with Microsoft. And when it comes to the corporate world, when it comes to Windows 10, yes, they do want to move everybody from it's basically LTS, which is the long-term service situation of Windows 10. There's also grumblings, rumors in the mill that are saying that there may be a lot of complaints from a lot of corporate users when it comes to Windows 10, forcing everybody to either Windows 11 or Windows 12, and that there might be a potential that Microsoft might backtrack a little bit on that. And that's all I will say. So definitely check out a lot of the YouTube influencers They are more up to date than I am, and a lot of them have specific contacts with Microsoft to get more info. Is that helpful, Robert?
I haven't come across that information. The only information I've come across is that Microsoft will be offering a paid package if you want to continue receiving upgrades for Windows 10. I don't understand what that means, to tell you the truth. Because there's the antivirus, there's the updates, the upgrades, whatever it is that comes. I don't understand what the definition of that package. So
yeah, that what you just mentioned actually is actually news to me. I did not hear that they were going to do such a thing. We haven't been told on the corporate side anything like that. And I don't know if that's a Canada thing, Poland thing, don't know. But at this particular point, we haven't been notified that, there's going to be the hard cutoff at this particular point for us. But I'm keeping my eyes peeled, and I'm watching a lot of as I was mentioning, the YouTube influencers that regularly, that is their job, is to just report on Windows Microsoft based going on, and I follow them, and they usually report daily on anything Microsoft, and they're not affiliated with Microsoft, so it's unfiltered. So that's my suggestion. That's what I'm doing, because my corporate contact at Microsoft has not said anything to us about our Windows 10 machines at this point.
And Robert, you said you were using the Microsoft version of Mac OS with the M2s.
Definitely not going down that route.
Is that, and that's using, what is the technology that I remember? There was the older technology on the older Macs that you'd actually do, where you could you'd buy the Mac hardware, but you actually boot it up in Windows. I'm trying to remember what that technology
dual
was.
boot.
Yeah, well, dual boot. It was a dual boot, but it was like you actually had to install at the Mac level. You actually had to
Boot camp.
Was it? Thank you. That's it. Yeah, boot camp.
No, I tell you, just those minimum size M2s are far faster than any of my Windows machines that I have, other than the graphics machine that we use, but just the standard laptops, even the i7s, and I was really surprised actually to see that the Windows 11 is not going to be supported on certain i7s that are older than, I think, 5 years, or the processors are older than 5 years. So
yeah,
that was a
yeah.
real surprise.
Again, yeah, the Windows 11. Not talking about Windows 12 at this point because it's still rumored, but Windows 11 is going back to 8th gen. Now I can tell you in my testing, I've got 3rd gen running Windows 11. So and that's talking Intel here. So I know that the operating system can handle it, or the hardware can handle the Windows 11 operating system, because I've been running it for months, because I'm purposely doing that, because I'm figuring out if we do have to replace all our gear or not. So I purposely took a really old one. I, brushed off the dust on an old laptop and fired it up one day and tried one of these, alternative methods of installing the Windows 11 OS onto the quote unquote unsupported hardware that you need TPM 2.0 on. Now, the other way also, which is something that is probably going to come out, is that it would, depending on your motherboard. So we're getting a little in the Windows world, but I'll go down there. In the Windows world, if your motherboard can handle TPM 2.0, and that is one of the major caveats as compared to the actual CPU, it's more that the TPM, so that because they want to make Windows 11 a lot more secure of an operating system at boot, as compared to right now at boot, it's a lot more relaxed of a security. So that is the other scenario too, is that a lot of people are actually looking for these little TPM daughter boards that you can actually connect into older motherboards. And then, of course, Windows 11 would be happy because it's looking for, yes, you might have an older CPU, but you have enough RAM, and you also need to have the TPM. Your mileage may vary a lot more easier on if you are able to get TPM 2.0 versus TPM 1.1, I think is what you needed at least for Windows 10. But that is definitely a suggestion on the Windows side for any Zoom client or any Zoom machine that you are running on. And of course, worst comes to worst, you can always run it on Linux. I've done a lot of testing using Linux Mint or Zorin operating system, which is very Windows looking, and it's very, very reliable, the Zoom client on there. So I'm just throwing that out there too. Should you need or run into old gear that it is not Windows 11 compatible and you don't necessarily want to upgrade it from Windows 10, Linux Mint that's one of my favorites. But again, Linux Mint or Zorin are very Windows-ish looking and could easily do Zoom in a heartbeat. I actually was running. I was involved this week in a couple of Zoom meetings that I was actually entirely running it on my Linux Mint desktop with Zoom, flawless. And that was it was actually a Zoom events meeting or Zoom event.
Yeah. But you are aware, Mike, that interpretation isn't available on the Linux version, on the Linux client.
All right. Okay.
That's our challenge. But I personally wouldn't like to go down that route because the people we send off with these kits of ours will not be technical people, and I don't know how to deal with that, to be honest with you, from a business point of view, from a management point of view. But just going back to the initial question, I've just pinged my tech guy. He's not answering, so I don't know how to answer the question as to whereabouts he changes the settings. Sorry.
And I wonder, things have changed over time as well. The conversation that I had with my UK associate was like almost a year ago, whether this now selection of sort of a matrix of data centers that you can use, will it automatically connect you to the one that's most favorable? And then, I don't know, it'll just be interesting to see how that is. And also to find out how the account that the Zoom test kitchen is configured. Does he have all of those countries checked? Does he have Frankfurt checked? If we can check that, that would be an interesting topic for next time.
Right. Unfortunately, even though I'm host, I don't think I have access to that. Go ahead, Frank.
No.
Sorry, I have people here who don't want to be on camera. I'm just going to screen share. I'm not sure that. So is this it, Robert, or is there somewhere else? These are the countries. Can you get down to the city? Like, can you be that granular?
No, I haven't seen it. I haven't heard my guys say that it's granular to the city. He showed me the settings granular to the state in the US for YouTube, but not for Zoom.
Yeah. I haven't come across anything except like maybe I haven't seen it, but I've never seen anything but this. And if this is the only thing available, it seems to me the only way you could direct it to a specific country would be to turn all the other countries off that you don't want, like negative option billing here. Like if I want Australia, I would leave it checked and then take all the other check marks away.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the way he does it, Frank, because you're in your personal settings. I know he does it. He's something in the admin settings that he does. I'm not sure. I don't want to mislead you here.
So in the admin settings for this account, they supersede these, so these wouldn't be available if I didn't allow them as admin. I can take these away, but we allow all these because we have multicultural people from all over the world doing things. So, but I could, as admin, I would have the same choices. I could take these choices away from individuals.
It actually says here that opting out of data centers may limit participants. So this doesn't seem to be the right
Okay.
area that we're looking
Sure.
for.
Well, maybe in a future Zoom test kitchen, you can come back to that because I'd like to hear more about that.
I
Thank
will
you.
come back to it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've sent a team chat off to my UK contact, but it's 10 p.m. there, so I'll get something tomorrow, hopefully.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's really cool, Robert. That's good. It's a good find, and we definitely need to lock it down a lot more, especially if we are, you know, that higher production crew that is going to be doing an event in XYZ country that is not our own, to make sure that, you know, because again, these small, you know, it's not a big deal because it's not preventing you from having the meeting, but it just makes that meeting that much more reliable and engageable, and you know, every millisecond counts, to be fair, especially when it comes to what we are doing.
Yeah, because even when I look at my stats now connected to this US server, I don't know what yours is like, but I'm over 100 milliseconds in audio.
Interesting. I will check that actually.
So now I'm showing it from the admin panel, not from my personal settings, from the global account settings.
It looks identical to what you were showing.
Yeah, and I don't recall ever coming across anything other than this in my travels, and I do get around the Zoom admin settings quite a lot, and I don't recall ever coming across anything else that would lead me to, but maybe through the API or something else, I don't know.
I don't know. I can't answer the question at the moment, so I didn't want to mislead you, but I may be misleading you. I don't know. I'll find out on Wednesday when we go back to work.
Okay. And Robert, you were saying how many milliseconds are you getting audio wise?
Audio, I'm getting over 100 milliseconds.
Interesting. Yeah, right now now that is the latency model number or jitter?
Latency.
Okay, so right now I'm getting on my receive, actually my send and my receive are actually different. My send is up in the 52 milliseconds right now because I'm the only one talking and I'm not receiving anything. Go figure. Thank you for changing on me Zoom client. And I'll be quiet and Robert speak back to me so I can tell you how many I received now.
Okay, I'm going to speak back to you now. And I've also looked at the video settings, the stats for the video, and it's also around 100 milliseconds both ways.
Interesting. Yeah. And it just came up and it was 41 milliseconds. So I'm 42, 41 milliseconds right now to the server that I'm connected to. So you're a little
that's measuring your jitter from, sorry, your latency from your location to the Zoom's data center in the States, yeah?
Correct. Yeah. Within the client. Yeah. Within the actual audio section going into stats is where both Robert and I are finding that for the people on YouTube.
Zoom also gives the option to have on-prem hosting. You don't have to use Zoom's initial server. You know, you can connect to your on-prem, and then I guess it jumps from your local to wherever, right? So would that play a role? Probably, but we don't do that at this time.
It's an interesting thought, Robert. So basically what Frank is saying is that, and again, this takes me back many years back to the Akamai days, and that was how Akamai initially started, was basically they gave everybody Akamai servers to put in their data centers, and you basically, your encoder hit that server first, and then they would actually put a peer in between that server. Instead of it being the whole pipe, the whole ISP pipe, it actually was just that physical server would then be connected back to their Akamai network, and then it would blow out to the world, right? So that sounds very similar to this scenario that Frank was talking about as well, where Zoom might actually give you an appliance, shall we call it a Zoom server, an appliance that you would actually put wherever, should that be in your own data center or maybe even the Polish data center, or your ISP could actually potentially be that data center as well, because they could put it in their data center where it connects up to Zoom as well. There are different avenues you can go. Of course, the appliance is probably not going to be cheap coming from Zoom, but it is also a potential another solution. That's a good one, Frank.
The other thing is Zoom has Zoom Mesh, which wouldn't really impact Robert's situation as much because he's round tripping. But if you're in an office building and you have an all company hands on deck, but everyone's sitting at their own cubicle, their own computer, Zoom Mesh would probably change your latency and your ping and everything, because it uses a way of how can I explain this? Basically, I think it's caching. Everyone's seeing the same thing instead of everybody going as an individual stream to something. It's saying you're all watching the same stream, so it reduces the amount of bandwidth that has to travel out of that into that building. From floor 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or whatever. I think Zoom Mesh economizes because everyone's watching the same thing, right?
Yeah,
and we did have in our situation, we have hundreds of rooms where people potentially, like maybe more like thousands of rooms, so definitely hundreds of rooms where people are very likely watching Zoom at any given time. And I always wondered if our network would be able to sustain HD video in hundreds of access points across campus at the same time. And I was wondering if we would need Zoom Mesh, but so far we've been okay.
And to be fair to Frank's university, they do have a lot of pipe. But again, when it comes, as it physically leaving the actual location, as far as internet pipe is concerned, yes. But you're right, Frank. It might actually, this would be, to be blunt with you, this would be your network admin's call.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm just, we're just sort of circling around a big topic that's got lots of things in common. But if you're in an office building and your company owns it and you plan on having a Zoom, company all hands on deck webinar or something, and you've got, 700 employees all pulling the same stream, maybe Zoom Mesh makes more sense for you, because then you're not recreating every single stream for every single person. So it economizes the bandwidth, right?
Yeah, exactly. And again, back, I can give a historical one as well. When, when I was working for one of my companies that I was doing a lot of streaming with, they actually told me to actually build an actual internal streaming server so that I could actually bring in one feed through the pipe instead of everybody going out through their main pipe to the internet and having 100 people watch through that one main pipe. They had only me bringing in the one pipe into that physical location, and then the 100 people were connecting to that physical server that I set up locally.
It might impact Robert, though, if his client was like a big corporation or something, and he was trying to stream to them and they were all in like a campus or a big office building. It might make sense for them to have Zoom Mesh, and that would help Robert's round tripping probably be more efficient.
Because again, it would only be that they would just need that mesh unit, the appliance, to connect out once to the pull-in Zoom server. And then now the mesh locally within the corporate network, everybody will connect to that from that corporate network to it instead of it leaving out.
Yeah.
And
to be very honest with you, when we do these sort of events that are very strictly geographically located because of a company, they're usually on Microsoft Teams. So the quality is bad by default.
Right. So, without asking you too many personal things, but are most of your events people gathering in an auditorium type situation where they're all watching it live and on a projector, or are they all at their own desk or at their own computer?
It's about 50-50. When we do hybrid events, then we get a lot of groups in conference rooms watching. And the reason that happens is that they buy one access because they're usually paid events, for 10 or 15 people to watch. But when we do a corporate event that's going into a specific organization, they want to have it on MS Teams just for security purposes, but we do the interpretation on a different system, sometimes Zoom, sometimes other systems that are dedicated, and we pipe it into Microsoft Teams.
Quick question for you. When you're doing these interpretations, is transcripts being done like through Zoom in those languages, and do you get multiple transcripts then, or do you do transcripts of the interpretation, or I'm just curious.
Well, in Zoom, the way it works is you need to define the language that is being spoken to get the transcripts. So you get one source language, or if there's 2 or 3 people speaking in different languages, then if you don't swap it, you'll really get a mess for the person who's speaking in another language than the language that you've defined. And so we use different tools to handle that. But with transcripts, I either say if it's a client that is on Microsoft Teams to do it by themselves for security purposes, I don't want to have a recording or a transcript of that event. But when we're asked to do it, I'll record it and then post-produce the transcripts.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. I gotta go. Thank you guys. You guys have a nice Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays.
I see in Frank's background, I already see the red and green back there. So
Yeah, and I purposely did the red shirt today, even though I was going against the grain where the boys have all their ZDK
all the
black on.
all the black, yeah.
I know. I usually do the black. I try to mix in with the gang, but today I was like, no, I got to be a little, I do a little bit of the holiday red. Attaboy, Robert. Yeah, that's it.
I was realizing I was like out of oh man, I should wear black.
This is actually
I wear black
Canadian
because video production most of my life, running on stage, crew usually wears black, and I have a lot of black clothing.
Yeah, it's coming up to midnight, so I'm going to say good night and have good time with your families, most of all.
You too.
And then,
happy holiday.
Happy holiday, and we'll see you in the new year, because that's when I'm going to switch my computers back on.
Enjoy.
And you.
All right. Later, guys.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye. So I guess at this particular point, we'll wrap this up as well. So everybody on YouTube, thank you very much for joining us this week, and we'll see. Stay tuned to David's email newsletters to see if we actually have one before the new year. If not, if this is the one for the new year, wish everyone a happy holidays, and take care from everybody here at the Zoom crew, Zoom test kitchen crew, that is. Take care, everyone. Bye.